This is the Mitsubishi A6M, also known as the Zero. It was the primary Japanese fighter during World War II. In this video, we focus on the A6M5 Model 52 variant, the fastest version of the legendary Japanese aircraft. The A6M5 was 29 feet 11 inches long and stood 11 feet 8 inches tall. Empty, the aircraft weighed 4,175 pounds. Its maximum takeoff weight was 6,797 pounds, less than half the weight of the F4U Corsair. My name is David Webb, and this is Blue Paw Print. The A6M5 was built in two primary sections, forward and rear. The forward section housed the cockpit, the oxygen tanks, the main fuel tank, the oil tank, and the nose-mounted machine guns. It was built as a single unit with the main wing spars. The upper wing skin in this area formed the cockpit floor. The rear section began behind the cockpit and continued to the tail cone. A reinforced frame housed an attachment point for the arrestor hook, which retracted into a recess underneath the fuselage. In this section, an inflatable airbag was stored, which was intended to help the aircraft float in case of an emergency water landing. The A6M5 carried two different types of weapons. Two 7.7mm Type 97 machine guns were mounted in the nose, and two 20mm Type 99 cannons were mounted in the wings. The Type 97 was a licensed copy of the British Vickers Class E design. The two guns were positioned between the cockpit and the engine firewall, and they fired through two narrow channels cut into the top of the engine cowling. To avoid hitting the propeller, the guns were synchronized to fire only when the blades were out of the way. Each gun was bout-fed from ammunition boxes stored in the fuselage and carried 700 rounds. The rate of fire was approximately 900 rounds per minute. If a gun jammed, the pilot could clear it manually using wooden charging handles located on either side of the gun sight inside the cockpit. Heavier firepower came from two wing-mounted 20mm Type 99 Model 2 Mark IV cannons. This was the long-barrel version of the Type 99 based on a Swiss Oerlikon design. Each cannon weighed 82.6 pounds, 6.2 feet in length. The barrels were long enough that they stuck out noticeably from the leading edge of the wings. The cannons fired 20mm rounds. On the standard A6M5, each cannon was fed from a 100-round magazine, giving the aircraft 200 cannon rounds in total. Several types of ammunition were available, each identified by a different color. In combat, only three were used. Yellow was the high explosive, white was the tracer, and red was incendiary. The rate of fire was roughly 490 to 500 rounds per minute. The projectile left the barrel at 2,460 feet per second. Spent casings were ejected through chutes on the underside of the wings. On most Western fighters, the firing trigger was mounted on the control stick. The Zero's designers moved it to the throttle so that the pilot could keep his right hand free for maneuvering during a dogfight. The pilot fired with his left hand and controlled all four weapons from the throttle handle on the left-hand side of the cockpit. A selector switch on the throttle handle controlled which guns fired. The switch had three positions. Pushing it forward selected the nose machine guns. Pulling it back selected the wing cannons. A middle position fired all four weapons at once. Ground crews could access the cannons and reload the ammunition drums through removable panels on the top surface of the wings. The fuselage of the Zero A6M5 was all metal. The outer skin carried part of the structural load along with the internal frame. The skin was just 0.02 inches thick, roughly the equivalent to the thickness of 5 sheets of paper. Most of the structure was built from a specialized alloy called Extra Super Duralumin. This was a zinc-aluminium alloy developed by Sumitomo Metals. It was around 30 to 40% stronger than the standard duralumin that was used in American aircraft at the time, while also being significantly lighter. However, it came with a serious drawback. Extra super duralumin had poor corrosion resistance. The designers accepted this trade-off given the aircraft's combat lifespan was estimated to be no more than 4 to 5 years. The wingspan of the A6M5 measured 36 feet 1 inches. The total wing area was just over 229 square feet. The wings were built around 2 primary spars. Each spar was built as a single unit running straight through the center fuselage. This eliminated the need for heavy fittings to connect the wings to the body, saving roughly 100 pounds of weight. The wingtips were rounded and fixed in place with no folding mechanism. This kept the structure simple and light. The short span and small wing area gave the aircraft a higher top speed and made it stronger in a dive. The trade-off was reduced range and a wider turning radius. The Zero was highly maneuverable at low speed, which made it dangerous in close-range fights. Its reputation was so strong that the US Army Air Force issued an intelligence summary advising pilots to never attempt to dogfight the Zero. The wing skin was a heavier gauge of metal. This gave the wing the strength to handle the stress of a high-speed dive. The maximum safe diving speed was 410 miles an hour. The Zero's primary flight controls were mechanical, moving the control surfaces through a system of cables and push rods. There was no power assist. Designer Jiro Horikoshi used thin control cables that would stretch slightly under heavy load. This prevented the pilot from over-controlling the aircraft at high speeds and improved the general feel of the plane. The ailerons were mounted at the trailing edge of each wing and extended outward to the rounded wing tips. They could deflect 30 degrees up and 20 degrees down. The internal frame was made from lightweight duralumin, but the outer covering was doped fabric, once again to save weight. Due to their length, the ailerons became very stiff and difficult to move at speeds over 200 knots. This made the Zero less competitive in high-speed rolling maneuvers against American fighters like the F4U Corsair. The A6M5 used split flaps, sometimes called crocodile flaps. Unlike a standard flap where the entire trailing edge hinges down, a split flap only lowers the bottom surface of the wing. On the Zero, they could deflect up to 60 degrees and were powered by a hydraulic pump driven by the engine. If the pump failed, the pilot could lower them using a manual hand pump in the cockpit. The elevators moved 30 degrees up and 20 degrees down. Adjustable metal trim tabs were located on the trailing edge of the elevators to allow the pilot to balance the aircraft's pitch without maintaining constant pressure on the control stick. The rudder could deflect 33 degrees in either direction.